Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to view Alexandria's Project, a movie that leaves our main character Steve with a big surprise, to be caught off guard, and eventually to be a movie about secrets. We would come to find that Steve is to be having a birthday. Isn't that fun? Steve is seemingly opening up his eyes to be in bed, to be given presents by his kids, and eventually is to seem to have Steve start to go through his normal day. Steve is to be preparing his kids for school as he in turn is preparing himself to go to work, and his wife is preparing to spit in a mirror and apologize to it. Strange. Steve goes on through his eventual normal workday, and his kids aren't going to school and are leaving via some taxi, and there is to have Alexandria be packing suitcases and putting up decorations for Steve's birthday. Steve eventually goes on through his workday, and it seems things for him specifically could not be going any better. Even though there is this consistent tease of boardrooms and board meetings, and Steve is to go on and imagine that there could be some firings going on, that if anything, just boardrooms are never good. So Steve eventually goes on after his workday is over back to a familiar place that could possibly get quite unfamiliar, with a surprise in store. A surprise who he thinks is going to be his birthday, cake and friends and family and gifts and what have you. But instead, as Steve goes home, he finds that his home is almost left empty. That the furniture that he is to seemingly have seen in the morning is mostly almost gone. That Steve is to realize that the only real celebration that's left is to open up a gift that is of a VHS tape that he is to put in and have his family on it, that he's going to see for the last time. Steve goes on to find out within this tape why that is. And eventually, the biggest problem I feel I have with this movie is that I don't think Steve, by the end of this, has this kind of Grinch or Scrooge like moment where eventually he grows a heart 2 times this day. Maybe by the end of it, he becomes an alcoholic. Maybe this tape all consumes him. Either way, I still don't think that Steve really changes. I think the only person that really changes in this whole entire movie is probably Alexandria. We find her to have built up more confidence, lashing out at Steve, yeah, through this tape, or through eventually what is to be happening during the later part of this movie, but still grows to be a strong woman, of which that I always go on and enjoy in films. So, with this movie, it is to be easily compared to Berlin Syndrome or Deadly Virtues. Berlin Syndrome goes on to give us a character that is to be a woman that finds a guy. She goes on to make her way to his place and finds that she's having trouble leaving him. Not because of her feelings, but just for other reasons. And the way things just start to twist and and be problematic within that movie is to just leave us to just have me think that that movie was interesting enough to garner people to still know about it. We also go on into Deadly Virtues, Love, Honor, and Obey. For some odd reason, people had gone on to enjoy that movie and or to have known of its existence at least. And I too would be like, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Deadly Virtues has a guy break into a couple's home. And you would think that he would be the bad guy of this story. He would be the person you should hate in this story. But come to find out by the twists and turns of story and how it all plays out, we really need to define the bad guy within this movie. And so when talking about that, like that is my also comparisons for Alexandria's project. So this movie is to go on and supposedly be soon to be available on Tubi. What that means, I have no idea. But right now, currently, the second recording, you can also go on and make your way into a Google Play Store to check out an app called Movie Box 3. This movie is probably not the cleanest, crispest variation of it on Movie Box 3, but right now, that was to be my only ways of being sure I could watch this movie. Currently, the second recording. At some point, I'm sure it'll probably be available on Tubi or something somewhere. But until that day comes, I would recommend Movie Box 3 because I have been using it for a longevous amount of time at this point. You may decide to do otherwise, but that's okay. So, with that said, Alexandria's project, there is also quite a bit of times where really this movie is just focusing upon skin, where it's like, dang, Alexandria and her body and this and that. And it's to be very distracting and feasibly like you want to go on and pay attention to what exactly every bit of what Alexandria is saying to Steve, but also you're just like, but that body though. Uh but anyways, we we have at certain points where we just consistently see where Alexandria is just fucking with Steve. And really, it's just kind of a lot of going nowhere, or we probably have to assume that really Alexander did not think that Steve was going to be watching this entire movie. So, really, when it comes down to it, Alexander probably figured it out that Steve would not really care. And Hence why Steve is to really be who he is by the end of this movie, because he probably really didn't care. There's the whole kind of problem with this movie where Alexandria is going to say, it's like, well, you didn't really need me, you just needed my body. And like that ends up becoming like a big thing about this film. So, with that said, overall, Alexandria's body, Alexandria's project, I'm getting a little body on the brain. Alexandria's project is be interesting, I feel. But also could be a big turnoff to some others. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, this will just be another product that I've gone on to see more than once, and eventually could justify its viewing through other films and other things. So, with that said, I'm going to go on and just make my way into breaking this movie down so I can hopefully upload this and then get out of here. Thank you all for going on and checking out this review, regardless of the length of which that you're to go on and do so, because it does help me out. It does help you out to just get information about a film. But then also it goes on to feasibly just be a way of which that is to just have me interact with people, if it's just me going on and talking to you, the viewer, or really anything in between. If you want to go on and mention any of your favorite birthday films, let me know in the comments below. If you want to go on and let me know any of movies of which that are to feel surprising, or to kind of be like, whoa, okay, like this movie is a little bit shocking, this and that, whatever have you. Let me know in the comments below. Like, I'll definitely probably looking at trailers or check them out, because maybe they'll go on and possibly something interesting that I can check out in the future. So with that said, I'm gonna pause here, get out my cast list, or insist to go on and run off the scene for scene, blow, you know what I mean, jelly bean parts of this movie in great detail. I will go on and I will explain that I'm kind of at this point of time, hopefully going to try as best as I can to carve up the details of this movie, but also I am to feel kind of very exhausted at this point. So I'm going to try my best to hopefully get this done as quickly as humanly possible, because feasibly I will go on and just be getting very tired. So my apologies for any performance of way in which that I approach this, but also thank you for watching this anyways, because you may click off at this point, and that's perfectly okay, because at the end of the day, let's get into the rest of the breakdown of this film. Alright, so the beginning of this film starts off with just kind of a bits of shots here and there of the neighborhood. Both Steve and Alexandria, or Alex, to be shorter here, in bed. Alex ends up waking first and makes her way to the bathroom. Alex goes on, looks in the mirror, apologizes to Steve while in the bathroom, while he's also not in the bathroom. Alex goes on to then spit on the mirror and then takes away her apologies. The following next thing we then see is Emma and both Sam rushing to their father's bedside to give him birthday gifts. Steve, who I believe is butt naked, which is very weird, is going on and be given these gifts, and then eventually, after the kids leave, he gets out of the bed and starts to do push-ups. Steve is eventually going on and opening up his window to notice that his neighbor is watering his grass. Steve goes on to mention how his neighbor is always watering his grass, so it seems that Steve is to just go on and just ridiculing this guy and calling him a gnome and everything in between, and telling that he'll get his and he'll take it up the ass one day. So Steve is looking at Alexandria, noticing that she is having quite a bit of problems to have slept. And Steve goes on to ask Alexandria, it's like, well, hey, like, I came in last night and you're dead to the world. And Alexandria's like, well, yeah, like, I took sleeping meds. And Steve goes on to tell Alex, it's like, well, I wish you wouldn't have done that because you kind of need much more natural sleep. So eventually, this is all to kind of lead nowhere, but at least it seems that Steve is trying to be nice to Alex here. But feasibly, I think the real thing here is Steve was probably hoping that Alex was to not use her sleeping medication so he could basically figure out ways to have sex with her in bed. And eventually, they'll go on and explain that in the movie that it seems that Alex is to always just want to try and sleep just to be awoken by Steve, who is to have a boner or is to want to go on and just play with Alex in a manner of fingers or anything of that, to eventually go on and uh, just have eventually Alex just go on and eventually be just seemingly annoyed by her own husband. So much so that eventually she leaves him for that, sadly enough. If only she, well, I guess she had probably gone on and probably told him these things, but he ignored her. Anyways, so as both Steve and Son make their way through the hallway, Sam goes on and is to bump his head, and Steve is to check in on Sam and make sure he's okay. Alex is to realize that Sam is hurt. Uh, Alex is to ask Steve, "Is hey, is our son okay?" And Steve tells Alex, "Yeah, he's fine. He's fine." So eventually, Alex does go on and tell Steve, that at least he is a good father, at least that, and also that he does go on and is to make money for the family. Yeah, that is to be the thing of which that Steve, I guess, is to be only good for, I guess, sadly enough. But eventually, there's going to be a lot of bad. So the family, except for Alex, is to all make their way into eating breakfast. We would eventually have Steve that leaves the breakfast table to go on and smoke a big fatty, right? A big J. No, he smokes a cigarette. Eventually, Emma will make her way out to him and will complain about the cigarette smoke. And so Steve goes on to put the cigarette out and then tells Emma, it's like, well, hey, are you going to go on? And are you going to brush your teeth? And so he goes on and kind of jokingly follows her into the house and plays with her. And then Steve goes on to find Alex. Steve finds that Alex is messing with something in the dresser. Steve asks if that's probably a surprise for him for his birthday, and Alex says, well, yes, it is, but you'll find out what it is later. Alex ends up asking for a sneak peek, which of course Alex refuses. He's like, okay, alright. Steve tells Alex that he'll see her tonight. Steve goes on and hugs his kids and makes his way to work. Man, like, a lot of this seems so much like the traditional household, with the exclusion of Alex, who is spit in the mirror. Everything else seems pretty traditional, pretty normal, right? Like, it doesn't really seem that there is anything that is to be kind of oddly placed here. So Steve opens the door and realizes the locks upon the door, and so he bitches about it, and then he makes his way outside. Steve goes on and finds his neighbor, who's seemingly watering the front yard, and so Steve starts to make small talk with his neighbor. I believe his name is Bill. Steve goes on and mentions about this guy's security business, as well as also how's the gardening going. Kind of there is this like, all right, yeah, it's going well kind of thing. So Steve goes on to leave for work. So Alex goes on to eventually be asked by Steve if he should go on and drop off the kids to school. And Alex says no, she's going to take care of it. I think eventually Jane is supposed to pick them up or something along those lines. So Alex in turn goes on and looks at her kids and tells them both to get out of their school uniforms because other things are now planned. The kids go on to help their mother put up the birthday decorations. While that's going on and the kids are distracted with the birthday decorations, Alex is going through the house and packing up luggage. Eventually, Sam knows about it and then he relays this to Emma. But anyways, it feels like kind of the two of them may have a questioning on what's going on, but if anything, they're not really saying much. So Steve makes his way to work and says hello to Duncan. Beautiful day and all that nonsense. Steve makes his way to his desk, accidentally bumping into some of his pictures. To make this be an important thing, that Steve has quite a bit of pictures of his family on his desk. Eventually, he'll get told by his secretary that his wife had called the office to get these pictures. I guess is a weird surprise. We'll come to find out that what Alex is really doing is trying to get rid of every single bit of any possible visual or photo of his kids to go on and exist. So eventually, Steve will forget all about his wife and kid when eventually they will disappear and be gone forever. So, Steve ends up being told about that he won't be able to go into the boardroom today. And he asks why. And it seems they're having a board meeting. And so Steve's like, that doesn't sound good. Anyone's probably going to get shit canned, or any number of things can go wrong. Hired, promoted, whatever. Anything in between could go on and be horribly going awry in that office. And we don't want to really know what it is now, is it? Are we? Should we? What have you? So, kind of said all this, I've explained all it, so I don't have to go over it again. So, Steve is to go on and be told to make his way to the boardroom. Steve starts to turn to some of his coworkers and asks them, hey, we're going to still talk afterwards, and this and that. Assuming that he's going to get fired, and so he might as well basically say his goodbyes to all of his cohorts. Alex is called for a taxi. Alex goes to tell the taxi to wait here, and the taxi says, hey, 40 cents for every minute. I don't care how long you take, because I'm just going to keep getting money out of you anyways. Alex explained to the kids that they're leaving, and so it doesn't really seem that they're very argumentative about this whatsoever. Steve makes his way into a boardroom to find that he's there because of his birthday, that he's going to go on and wipe out all the candles and eat some cake. Good for him. Steve jokes around with people, and Alex sees the taxi pull away. We're also going to realize that the whole bit of banner footage with the kids and Alex was to be done on purpose, because eventually Alex was going to record something that was going to be used on that VHS tape. And I'll hopefully state what all that is when I go on further to dissect this. So Alex goes in the home and is to do a certain assortment of locks. And then next thing we see is her going on into the shower. Steve ends up getting this paperwork, and it's a bill that doesn't quite make sense. Steve ends up getting upset and is to be trying to go through paperwork to figure out what the heck is going on here. Steve is to try to call Alex, and Alex does not answer. Here's where Steve notices that the pictures are all gone, and he asks his secretary about it. Let me pause here for 1 second. Alexandra goes on to the phone, calls a number, and states that she's ready. Whatever ready is, she is. Steve goes on to get another bit of information that he's needed at another boardroom. What? Do they have more cake? Is it ice cream this time? What flavor is it? I'm curious. So, Steve makes his way into the boardroom. It's like, what? Do they butter him up just to give him the boot right after? Come on, movie. Trying to freaking tease me here? What are you trying to do? Steve makes his way into yet another boardroom, and Steve ends up asking his boss if that's all, and he says yes. Steve leaves the office, and he is seemingly almost in a dancing foolishness of his character. Dancing it out, have a good old time, raising a fist up in the air like you just don't care. Excuse me. So, Steve is leaving for the day. One of his coworkers ends up asking Steve, "Hey, would you like to share a drink with me? Like, hey, I might as well double things up." And Steve is like, "Well, like I should probably go on home. It's my birthday, and if anything, like I'm sure you'll be there, right? You'll be there for my surprise birthday party." And his coworker is like, "Well, I don't really know," because it's true, he doesn't really know. So Steve is thinking that this guy's lying. He knows he's going to be there. So Steve is making his way home, and he's a bit of a chatterbox. Goes on and surprised that his neighbor is watering, and more likely assuming that because of the weather that's been there, that feasibly any of the watering that he's doing is going to do no good anyways. Steve makes his way into the home, calling out surprise, and then eventually realizing when it's so quiet in the house, he's like, well, I guess I should be asking, is anyone here at this point? Steve looks around to find that there is no switches that work. And let me pause here for 1 second. Alright, as Steve makes his way through the house, eventually here's where he finds the tape. It says, "Open me, Dad," and then says, "Play me," as he's to open the present. Steve goes on to start to play the tape, eventually realizing at some point that both wife and kids will not go on and continue celebrating on the tape until Steve pauses the tape and goes and get a beer. Consistently having the family delay until Steve is going to go on and grab this beer. So Steve goes on, makes his way to the fridge, opens it up, takes the beer, comes back. The family is to go on saying, like, well, I assume at this point now he'd hopefully gotten one, so let's go on and let's celebrate his birthday. Cheers to be had, and both Emma and Sam are to go on and say to their father how appreciative they are of him, how they hope that he will like the gifts that they give him, and so on and so forth. So eventually, both kids will go on and try to say the exact same thing, but eventually, Sam will go on and kind of forget to say what to say. And I kind of wonder if that was just a mistake by the actor or if that was to be legit what was to have gone on and been a thing that they just kind of had in the movie. It also is interesting, Steve going on and thanking both Emma and Steve here, as well as cheersing with his family. So, the next thing we see is Alexandria alone after the kids have left. Alex is to say that she is to want to give Steve a different kind of present. So, Alex says that she's bad at this. There is no bad at that. Yeah, make a mistake, kind of what it's fun, goofy, whatever. So Alex goes on and starts dancing and music is playing in the background. Alex is doing some kind of striptease, it seems, or just dancing and eventually also taking off her clothes. Steve is to be just surprised by this. He is to be just like, who the heck is this woman? When have I gone on and not seen this woman before? So eventually, further and further, as Alex is to start taking more and more off of her clothes, she then goes on and realizes that the music eventually stops to a point to where then Alex is to ponder whether or not she should go on and continue to take off her clothes or not, or replay the tape. And she's going on and pondering all this while also realizing that she hasn't stopped the camera yet. So, because she doesn't know how it works exactly. So, Alex completely stops the footage and then turns it on again. And she has her clothes on still. And she talks about their wedding day. She goes on to talk about how it was after the wedding day that Steve was just always just on her, just so intimate and just like it seemed that she really was to see how much just Steve really wanted to just have sex with her, it seemed, during their wedding day. So then Alex is to go on and talk about the kids. And here's where she goes on and says, yeah, Steve, you're always really good with the kids, and also you're to work for the family, and like that's all good and great and all. But it's just not enough. It's just not enough, Steve. So we now go on to have Alex talk about how she's not very happy anymore, that she's unhappy. And Steve immediately goes on to say, it's like, well, yeah, that's an understatement. And Alex says the exact same thing, almost echoes what Steve is saying. We also have Steve that is like, well, hey, nothing a little Prozac won't fix. What a horrible thing to say. Like, don't go on and suggest a drug family member. It's like, hey, like they're having a rough time. Like maybe all you need is more time to just kind of see if that'll pass. Like there is a lot of times where like, and I'll admit, to even recently, like I am very much struggling with mental health every day. Like I'm to either be stressed, unmotivated, depressed, anxiety, any number of things that I'm just kind of dealing with. Unmotivated, like I really struggle to perfectly time my days, and just shit falls through the cracks a lot. And I am to probably like procrastinate is my real detriment here. But again, it's just really just being like unmotivated at this point. So it's also just like I question a lot what I'm also just doing with my life. I question why I'm doing it. And I just in my mind just say like, well, I just gotta keep going. I just gotta keep going. But like the further and further gamble that I just keep slopping together is just like at some point it's gonna be like, well, what am I really doing here? I don't know. I just continue to just throw that answer out in the ether. What am I really doing? I have no idea. I wish I had the answer anymore, but anyways, I'm doing video. My eyes are tired. Put on a pair of glasses so I can just keep going and keep doing the video, even though I am tired. But it doesn't matter. There's a lot of people that go on and they struggle way more than I do. They do this and they don't have to. But they do it out of the pure enjoyment of it, or also they do it because feasibly they want to do good at this. They want to go on and hope that their consistency of this will eventually pay out in the end. That hopefully they'll go on and and also probably transition from this. There are some people that go on and they do that also. They're hoping that doing a YouTube video will get them an acting gig or something. I don't know. Hopefully, eventually, have certain people from certain parts of professional life see these people like, oh man, we gotta get that guy or we gotta get that woman, and like there are probably other ways of which about going about that. You could take acting classes. You could go on and you could take wrestling schools. You could go on and do any number of things besides doing YouTube. And if anything, it'll probably take up less of your time. But I guess people think that, uh, like, also, there is no wrong answer. Like, I think people can go on and also use YouTube just so that way they can become better at public speaking or better uh, at reaching out for people that they probably wouldn't be able to find in their normal day-to-day lives. So, anyways, it's my soapbox, everybody. Getting on my soapbox because I gotta do that all the time and just rattle off things and ramble. Let's get back into this film so I can get this uploaded today, hopefully. So, Steve goes on to tell Alex here that he's heard this all before. Probably like all the things that I've said, you've probably heard numerous times through numerous videos. And are probably to be just so annoyed by it that it's like, ugh, you wonder why your view count is what it is. Yeah, it's true. Um, I am no longer the wordsmith I used to be, or good as I used to be, I guess. At rattling off bits of things of videos. Anyways, so if I ever was, it's better to be lucky than smart, I guess. So Steve stops the video, gets another beer, chugs it, continues on the bits of footage here. But he goes, here's the dick thing he does. So he takes the tape speed and he hits that button and he's zooming through the tape at like double the speed or whatever. So Steve continues to do this, and then eventually he yells Jesus, and so he stops the tape speed and he pauses it for a second, and he pauses it now at a point of the tape where Alex is holding a gun. Holy shit. So Steve then rewinds it a bit and then plays it. Here is where Alex goes on to be upset with Steve because she had found out that he was having an affair on her. What a douche. You know what? With probably all of the sex that he was getting from her, Why did he need to go somewhere else? I guess that is what it is, right? Steve just couldn't find Alex to be good enough. Well, I guess I should probably not be so on my high horse, but logically, like, yeah, no one's perfect, but then again, like, I've never gone on and had affairs or dated multiple people at multiple, no. But again, no one's perfect. So, and if there is that perfect person out there, maybe their name is Brad Pitt or Fabio or something, and they look that way, but maybe they aren't that way. Or maybe they're written in a story to be that way, but I don't know. Maybe you'll have to just go on and find your perfect enough. God, I am just so on my god dang soapbox today. God dang it. Wasting so much of your time. I'm sorry. So Alex is going on and asking Steve who she is. Who are they? Oh, so Steve has been cheating around with more than one, multiples. Probably going on and telling Alex that he's busy at work, lying to her. You know what? Steve, if you would have gone on and admitted to Alex you were having an affair, all of this would have probably not have gone on and exactly happened to you like the way it is right now happening to you. You would have come clean, and yeah, you would have still been the bad guy, but you're kind of still the bad guy now. What has really changed? More time has passed? Anyways. Alex confesses to Steve that she has basically run, or he has run her life into the ground, which is kind of true. Like, he kind of controls everything. And that anytime she needs money, she has to beg for it. Let me guess what she probably has to also go on and do to get money from him, right? Bullshit is that? You know what? When you really love somebody, like, or you, when you really are just infatuous, like, yeah, what do you have to? Why does somebody have to beg for money? Like, I don't know. Like, you start to think what mine is yours and yours is mine kind of thing. But I don't know. Soapbox. Can I ride that high horse any higher today? Uh, Maybe I guess it also depends on, like, hey, if you work for your money for a living, then, like, I guess you should determine where it goes. I don't know. Again, high ho silver away. Da, 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 da. Yeah, high horse. Alex realizes that she doesn't exist. That she may as well not exist, and she thrusts the gun to her head. Don't pull the trigger, Alex. Because if anything, we'll come to realize that there's no bullets. Oh, there was no bullets in the gun, motherfucker. That is to go on and be the first tease that we get from Alex. There's no bullets. Oh, it's Die Hard all over again. God dang it. Ho, 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 I have a machine gun. Alex goes on and also does another tease, mentioning that, well, just keep watching. There's going to be something really good coming up. The gun wasn't enough? Whipping a gun out, just whipping that thing out wasn't good enough. Come on. So, Alex goes on to mention that she's been a little bit rough on Steve lately, hasn't she? So, here's all of a sudden when Alex realized that her bra is a little bit tight. Probably because she hasn't gone bra shopping in a while. Maybe she go on and do that. Yeah. Maybe get a size up. Let those babies breathe. You know what I'm saying? So, Alex goes on to say that her breasts were seemingly an asset to her, but no, she goes on to say that she assumed that maybe her breasts were an asset, but they're actually more of a liability. Here is where stuff gets really good. And good in a horrible way. As Alice goes on is talk about how she found a lump on her breast. And she starts to go on to say that she had found out that she has this lump and it's cancerous. And that she's going to have to go on and end up having her breasts be done surgery upon and she'll probably lose them. And I'm like, oh my god, Alex, wow, all right. Like, like we have at this point where Steve is legit crying. He's emotional. He gives a shit. And Alex is going on and on about this. Will you still care about me, Steve? Will you see me in the hospital? Like, will you still love me, Steve? Kind of thing. So, further and further we're going on with this whole thing. And then, at some point, Alice goes on and says, like, well, hey, you better take a good look at these now. And so further and further there's a build up of this. And then all of a sudden, she is to look back at the supposed lump. And she removes it from off of her chest. And then says that she lied. Oh my god, Alex. Horrible. Horrible. No matter whether or not you are to be a breast man or not, like, just the manipulation of just, like, feeling that bad about a person and then, like, oh, swerve? Come on. Like, we cared about the person, not about the body part. Come on. Come on, film. Just to give us that swerve. But also, like, we should have saw it coming with after the bullets. Not being in the chamber of the gun. But then again, eventually this buildup of all this shit, we question if Alex is going on and quite getting even with Steve. Like, the cheating thing with multiple women, there is where the question of I don't quite know. But, like, Alex also thrusting a gun to herself and lying to Steve, making him feel like a horrible human being. Like, well, hey, yeah, I didn't catch that either. I didn't notice it. I just, like, I just. And then all of a sudden, well, bam. Yeah, I lied to you. Oh, son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Anyways, here's also when things get a little wow, okay. So Alex goes on and is talking about nipple piercings. And she even goes on to take this, like, this thing, this needle, and she pierces into her own chest. And she goes on to accidentally have her chest bleed. And then it's just shown on the, like, hey, look, it's bleeding. I'm like, huh, you don't need to show that. Come on. So Steve, like, there's only so many levels of which that he could take watching this, and realizes that none of this is funny. Steve starts to go on and starts to try and find if any of the phones in the house are working. And they don't. None of them do. Steve goes on to look through the house and even goes into his cell phone to find out that his cell phone isn't going to work either. And if anything, he finds a bullet. To what gun? I have no idea, but a bullet is there. Here's where, again, we would go on to have Alex that brings up their wedding night. And Alex said that Steve wanted her, needed her, and she was touched everywhere. And never let her got dressed even one day. Realizing that he really wanted her. But then eventually, at some point, that Steve just married her body, not her. Basically was to go on and on, just say like, well, yeah, like convincing him. It's like, well, yeah, like, you just married me for my body, right? So even to the point where she goes on and puts on this whole dog and pony show, where Alex is to mention how Steve was to make her chest like talk to one and like and Alex immediately says like, you know how I hated that. It's like, well, like I'm really very curious if Alex was to say any of this to him. Like, yeah, like Alex also goes on to say to Steve how she had spoken up and Steve would always go on and ignore her or not acknowledge what she said. But also, like, I question how much she used to go on and kind of snap back about anything. But I'm sure also there are a plethora of times where, like, Alex tried to refuse Steve for all the times that, like, he would try to like surprise her in the bed or the shower or the fingerings and the like while she was sleeping and all kinds of things. Maybe she did maybe say any number of times then, but also for how often that they slept together. Eventually, Alex is to mention how eventually that came to eventually go into their first child, Emma, during their wedding of how often they slept together. Then Alex was pregnant with Emma. So after all, there's a lot of like I hate to go on and be like Steve, who's to kind of like, hey, let's fast forward through a lot of what Alex is saying, because I feel what Alex is saying holds importance, but also like this stuff does kind of go on and on and on. But yeah, it's really hard to pull a Steve here. But I feel that there's some stuff that I kind of just feel that I want to kind of quickly get past here. Just that way I can go on and try to get this video uploaded. So we go into a point where Alex is to mention about groping. That groping is easy and anyone can do it. We'll get to a point where Steve will find that there is a hand coming out of nowhere, and we'll find out that his neighbor is basically messing with Alex kind of under the table here, so to speak. And then eventually we'll even further find out that the neighbor goes on and is performing acts with Alex to eventually get paid for it. So feasibly, she's going on and showcasing how at some point Alex is to be getting money. But here's where Steve shuts off the tape. Steve goes on through the cupboards and gets a flashlight. Steve goes on and makes his way through the house and is to. Let me pause here for a second. Alright, so Steve goes on, makes his way through the house, and eventually is to find what looks like some like lotion like capsule like things. I'm not quite sure exactly what those things are. It's too dark to make it out. Feasibly, I wish Steve would have said what they were so I could understood what they were, but he doesn't say anything. Sadly enough, here's the thing about this movie. A lot about it is too effing dark. I honestly wish Steve would have gone on and talked a lot more. Say what he was doing, say what he was looking at. Any number of things could have helped Steve. I don't want to nitpick, but also see what you're doing, see what you're thinking, see what you're feeling. Get more shit out, Steve. Could have been helpful. Oh well. So, after Steve goes on and finds some seemingly unusual lotions of some kind, Steve goes on and makes his way back to the tape. At this point, I feel that Steve has kind of have enough. He's to kind of really be burnt out at this point, but also it seems that Alex is to have a bit of enough also from a little bit of a neighbor. So it seems that Alex has gotten a little carried away. Here is where Alex is to be taking off her panties and is to show her fully nude. Saying to Steve, it's like, well, hey, you better look at my body now because you'll never really see this again. Alex is to say that she's a little bit worse off because she has had kids. Like, I'm like, come on, like, really, like, it's still the female form, like, I'm not exactly gonna go on and be an Olympic judge and be doing a 1 to 10 scale. F that nonsense. Like, come on, like, come on, Alex. If anything, we've gone on to look at this woman for X number of minutos within this movie. Like, if she's immediately talk about kids and saying that her body isn't in a great like whatever with that. No, it's like if we've spent so much time looking at it now, then we're obviously fascinated by it. So maybe too much so, but it is what it is. So as far as I don't know what I'm saying here. Let's push on. So here is where now Alex has to talk about her tunnel of love, which is to be code for her punani, her down belows, her nethers. So her crotch shot, if you know what I mean. Do some lingo here because at some point, freaking I probably should not cuss as much as I probably should in this video. So here is where Alex goes on and talks about the times in which that Steve would put fingers into her, would surprise her in the shower, would also even further go on to buy a cucumber specifically to bring this thing into their bed. Which, you know what? I could probably understand maybe a banana. Like that's a little too far. Maybe let's pull back a little. I was gonna say something, but then again, I'm like, no, no. Um, little, little bit of too much private. You know what I'm saying? So I go on and I'm like, he all Alex is to also have gotten a vibrator, which I would say, yeah, freaking get her one. Get her a dildo, bells and whistles, whatever. Because feasibly, that is to be like, well, hey, if your man is not there, or really, if anything, you may go on and get a little tired of the same old 1 2 1 2. But really, for the vibrator, eventually Alex says that that is to just end up getting used instead of the cucumber, and it's to be used by Steve. So like Steve, Steve was just going to just keep getting these things, and also like it was interesting when Alex was to go on and talk about the cucumber when like Steve was going on and getting this cucumber at the store and just thinking about what Steve was probably thinking of while he was getting the cucumber, thinking about probably the cashier and hoping to, yeah, any number of just things that were just kind of popping through Alex's brain. But so so Alex goes on and talks about all the things that were introduced into the bedroom, let's just say. So da, 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 and then here is the reason for Alex even bringing up the toy here, because eventually, since now Alex is separate from Steve, she's on the tape. She's going to use toy to get ready. Good God! So she's getting ready because Alex is going to explain how she is to make her money. When Steve is home, or when Steve is not home and Steve's at work, in turn, Alex is going on to her neighbor and sleeping with him, or a number of others, because eventually a guy will come a knocking and asking for Mistress Alexandria. Wow. Just so many like weird things just to have gone from just that scene alone, where the guy's like, I'm looking for Alexandria, Mistress Alexandria, and the guy's just like, uh, Steve's just like, get out of here. He should have like, get out of here. So Steve is watching his wife fucking another man, and Steve is to plead with Alex to not do this, and she does it anyways. And Steve is going on and checking that it is his neighbor. So now we transition here to see that now Alex is in a robe. And Steve is now livid at this point, threatening that he's going to kill his neighbor. Who knows how much level of other upset he's going on, and just to be just churning through that brain of his. If only he could have said it a lot more in this film. But if anything, it is what it is. There's only so much line delivery can be delivered in this movie. So here's where Alex says that can't never get enough of a good thing, right? Can we? Uh, talking about the taking up the ass, taking up the butt thing. I really should. Let's kind of pull back a little bit more. Yeah, the more I say here, the more it'll kind of be to my detriment of this video. Like, whatever. What, what difference does it make it anyways? So Alice goes on and talks about, like, well, yeah, like, you used to talk about our neighbor and you used to give him crap. Look where you are now. Look where we are. So Alex ends up asking Steve if he likes his birthday present. And Steve starts to go on and starts to say Alex. And Alex answers. Says, you know what? I like my name, Alexandria. I never liked Alex. And Steve's like, well, what? So Alex says, how many times do I have to say it? I hated Alex. Wow. Okay. My bad. I kept saying Alex because it was shorter. My bad. I'm sorry, Alexandria. Should respect the one. Like, if anything, like, it's always nice to have also just kind of cute nicknames, right? Like, I'm not gonna be calling my girlfriend Pookie or yeah, there might be sometimes where, like, the terms of endearment or the nickname, yeah, they probably are stupid, but if anything, it's just kind of like, maybe it is kind of goofy and nice, but then again, I guess it just depends on the person. Maybe people don't like nicknames from their lovers. Who knows? Anyways, so should always be a thing of conversation, I guess. So Steve takes the remote and hits pause and realizes that pausing just doesn't work. That Alexandria, is going to keep on talking, keep on dancing all through the night. So Alexandria goes on to explain to Steve, yeah, you're going to realize now that this is not the tape. This is live going on to the TV. It's like a live stream, but for the TV. And Steve was like, wait a minute, how is this going on? And so Alexandria says that it's magic. Steve is not quite sure what to do at this point now that he's really seeing Alex via live feed. There's a temptation for Steve to do a number of things, but Alex will go on, or Alexandra will go on and tell Steve, I'm gonna freaking be so tempted to just switch to Alex because it's easier. Alexandra will be tempted to tell Steve that there's a gun pointed on him. Not quite sure how that is to exactly be a thing. There's not one bullet to be shot anywhere. You would think that if Alexandria was telling the truth, there at least would be one pop off that was to happen. Nothing happens here. To kind of scare Steve into like, oh yeah, I guess she's right. Huh. So at this point now, Steve is trying to figure out what to do to try to outsmart Alexandria here. So while Alex is talking, Steve turns off the TV and then figures out a way to hide. Alex has the TV come back on and eventually is trying to figure out exactly where Steve is. And Alex is going on and telling Steve to come out, which he won't. So we have out like there's a part here I'm a little confused about what exactly is going on. Um, oh, I think this is where Alex goes on and uses the kids against Steve, and Alex goes on to tell Steve about the whole taking away the pictures thing, and has no evidence of the kids existing, and she's to go on and wipe them off of any memory of Steve being able to have them. So it's also interesting when Alex would throughout the tape go on and say that Steve will be able to have this tape forever. To watch it over and over and over again, to see her over and over again. And really, I would say that eventually, when we come to find uh, Steve with his neighbor, we'll come to find that's contradictory. That the neighbor go on and tell Steve, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go on and supposedly erase the entire tape. That's what Alexandria wanted. But the neighbor will go on, I believe his name is Bill, will say it's like, no, 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 like I'll just leave a bit of the tape still on there, so at least you'll have something. And Steve never goes on and takes this tape to the authorities, like, hey, you're gonna be looking for these people. He doesn't do anything with the tape but jerk off to it or whatever. But what a stupid decision that is. So, like again, he could be looking for these people, he could be trying to get to them, he could be getting his kids back. Any number of things, but no, not doing any of it. So maybe it was pointless. Maybe like Steve was like, well, yeah, out of all the damage that I've ever gone and done to them, yeah, maybe they deserve to just get their piece. So Here is where Alex goes on to tell Steve here that she's having to wrap up things a little bit sooner than she thought because she's going to have to go on and leave. And her cab is here. So it's time for her to go. So after Alex does leave, Steve now is going through the house trying to figure out a way to escape. He goes on to try to go to the front door, hoping there's a way for him to kind of get the door open, which he can't. He starts to make his way through the windows, hoping that there's a way to break through that. Seemingly way too difficult to be able to do so. So now Steve has to go on and just find a weak wall at this point for him to break through. And he finally does, and he ends up at his neighbor's home. So Steve makes his way through his neighbor's home and finds all of the recording pieces. He goes on to find the replica of the happy birthday sign. He goes on to find his wife's clothes, everything in between. So Steve turns to find his neighbor with a gun. So eventually his neighbor goes on to explain it's like, well, hey, yeah, like I was to, of course, be a person that was to, of course, be a working security. So I am to know the cops, and if anything, I'm going to go on and I'm going to call them, and so Bill does go on and call the cops, and they come for Steve, and Bill says he's not going to go on and he's not going to press charges, but he's going to say, hey man, how would you go on and just kind of leave him overnight? And like he's very drunk, so yeah, just kind of just leave him in jail. He'll be fine. Bill also goes on to tell Steve that he's willing to again kind of keep a bit of the footage left on there, and also he's going to give Steve the new keys so he can get into his house because he paid for them anyways. Oh yeah, his name is Bill. That's eventually it comes up. So in a very round, I think I kind of covered most of this. Like many things, like I could talk about how Bill uh, was to say the cops are have a bit of sense of humor about this whole situation, make a bit of joke of it. Uh, Bill says that he was kind of in a horrible situation himself and knows that Steve is probably going to be suffering for a while, and that really Steve's wife has really thought this through and really planned this out, and she's a really intelligent woman. And that's where Steve mentions about the whole tape. It's like, well, she said that I would be able to have forgotten about her, forgotten about the kids. Well, I had the tape, and then Bill's like, well, yeah, I'm gonna erase that tape. Then he's like, I'll leave some on there. I'll leave something for you. So the cops end up coming for Steve, and So here's where we go on. We have Steve that goes out of his house, and we have the rando guy who's asking for Mistress Alexandria, and Steve goes back to the home. It's like, whatever, creep, like get out of here. Steve goes back to be looking at the footage over and over again. Back to the cheers and the glass clinking. Steve watching his wife, of course, F another man on this tape over and over again as Steve goes on and is to drink more alcohol. So really that is to all be left to Steve just saying cheers, and I'm going to cheers myself and get the heck out of here. Only an hour and a half this time. Good God, I even then I probably shouldn't have spent that amount of time. But I really did ramble in this one. I really did put my foot in my mouth as much as I always worry about doing that. But thank you for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Right now, I am to be happy that this process is to be done for my day, but also I know that if I put this video out, I'm going to always consistently just kind of second guess myself and question whether this was the right take or not, whether I made a mistake or not, and the pressure of getting it right to then go on and actually put it out and then it just not do well anyways. Just the frustration of me going on and realizing that like I've made a lot of bad choices, but then also it's really just tough to really understand what is best for YouTube anymore. I would go on to see so many YouTubers now who are telling me that their specific thing is dying. Like I would go on and I would find people that are talking about certain topics that I'm interested in, like Power Rangers, and I would find a person who does exclusively Power Rangers content, and they would say it's like, well, yeah, like my topic, it feels like it's dying, and then I would go on to see guys like Jacksepticeye, and Jacksepticeye is telling me that gameplays are dying. It's like, well, I guess I used to do that when I first initially did this, and then I started doing the reviews, and then now reviews seem to be they're dying. What the heck? What can you do in YouTube anymore? Like, should you just be like a personality? Should you just be a news reporter reporting the news to people? Like, what is the perfect like? Should I just like turn into Smosh or who line it is it anyways? Like, should I just try to become a some kind of show or kind of thing that just puts together a kind of movie thing instead of doing any of this kind of review or talking about movie stuff? Like, I don't know. Like, it feels that also that obviously like I gotta put a lot more money into this to where I'm really comfortable doing or willing to do. So I don't know. It's like there's also to be channels that are obviously way more bigger to me, and they're saying that their reviews are dying or that their channel isn't doing too well or whatever. Like, and it's like, well, yeah, if I'm getting that information, like I understand what my state of, but also it is during Christmas time. Like, I can't expect people really to tune in to my stuff also. Um, like I have people that go on and consistently are watching this stuff, consistently watching the videos. And I appreciate people doing that because it keeps me going. It keeps me doing this. Uh, but also it's just like, man, I am really just shooting in the dark here. Um, of choices I'm making, of just like, what should I really do? What should I really be focusing on? Like, and a lot of people could just point out, like, well, easily, like, Power Rangers doing really well for the channel. Yeah, and I really like doing that content. And I I hate for how long it takes. I really like. I don't want to spend 5 hours on a video like that. I've spent back to back 5 hours on videos, and I've regretted them. For the length that it took to describe all that. But I do enjoy talking about that content, so kind of take with what I can get. But anyways, I should probably take with what I can get and just get out of here. I will forever be foot and mouth guy, um, but I will hope to forever. I hope figure out a way to stay here, to stay doing this. Uh, I'd like to hope that uh, I could figure out what best to do for the channel. Um, but I also have gone on and said like I've been beating a metaphorical dead horse that a lot of the successes are behind me, but also those successes have completely well, like I say that, but like just Stanley's Lucky Man, that just one video. Like I always just am like baffled by that. Like I just got just so lucky with that video and just so lucky with that content. Um, even though I already knew it, that doesn't matter. It doesn't. It does not. It does not say that. What am I trying to go with here? To figure out a way to wrap this up. So what I'm trying to say is I always. Plus, I do this when I'm tired. It's not a good thing. Never a good thing. Never a good thing. Bah. If I can talk, if I can speak English, great. So I want to say that I'm fairly tired, and a lot more mistakes are to be made here. For anybody who's to find me through any of these videos, regardless of what they are, regardless of what, there could be any number of times where people. I never wanted to clickbait anybody. I never wanted to. try to manipulate anybody. But the further and further I go about this, the more I hope to try to keep that in mind as much as humanly possible. Because if that day comes and I feel like I am really just like there are times where I would just do movies and shows because like well obviously people are gonna love this movie because of just certain things about it. But I also had to go on and say that at some point I really did like this movie, or some point I was like, "Ooh, I can enjoy this film," even though obviously I had probably seen it more than one time or whatever, and it just kind of lost that value. But regardless, like I never want to get to a point where I don't want to have all the fun just taken out of a project. And there is also a lot of times where I look at my delivery and I'm like, you know what? I don't think I had enough fun in this video. Like, I don't think I made enough jokes. I don't think I really was good at this at all. And I don't know, I guess just better than nothing. But if anything, I'm still here. We're still doing this. We're still gonna, I guess, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep trying. I don't know. I'm gonna get out of here before I say something actually profound and actually worth hearing. So, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year's, because I'll still be doing videos. Uh, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of fell through this holiday season. Um, there's a lot of stuff I really planned on wanting to do, and that just completely went through the shitter. Um, there was a lot of times where I got unmotivated and stuff got derailed, and like my workouts have really just gone through the crapper. I have really lost, like, ever since I got that just new equipment, like, I really just started to just derail um, because I wasn't very consistent with it. So, yeah, I gotta keep getting back onto that. I gotta keep going. But also, like, I've just kind of been very much unmotivated because of just it got to the point where, like, I was hoping for the channel, like, the big turnaround could have just been, like, considering I have to be in every one of these thumbnails, you have to see this ugly mug. That eventually I thought, like, well, hey, like if I just looked thinner, if I looked better for the like that would go on, and like just me being thinner would probably just drastically change um just YouTube videos. I thought I was like, yeah, that'll probably be it, right? And when I was to go on and finally to have done that, but I still have a way to go, ways to go. Uh, I feel still, yeah, like even though I am to obviously be like 6'4", yeah, I still would feel like there's probably still a good number of pounds still to lose. But also, I've kind of consistently been getting sick. while trying to. So yeah, it doesn't really help. Um, Also, like dieting too long doesn't help either. So yeah. So probably also I kind of accumulate everything to kind of what I said for the intro of this channel, to where it's like good enough is never really good enough. So, but I'm sure a number of certain parts of this video were to probably be what people tune into, and I appreciate people doing that. And so maybe to them that's good enough, and that's okay. There is no wrong answer for how you're to consume this stuff if you try it, if you do it. So, anyways, finally, I'm like, we'll cut this off after this. I really should probably get out of here to get some sleep. Uh, but maybe there is no answer anymore, and there is no more to do. But I at least am not going to give up. I'm not. There was like every time I've just kind of been very much more frustrated, and I hear people all the time like struggling, and it's like, hey, right there with you, but like nowhere near probably the numbers you're doing. uh because people could also just look at my views, but like that doesn't, like, those views are a great accomplishment, and I am not the one doing those, other people are. So that is, and that is not at all my accomplishment. That is, that is of people. That is not of me. um Subscribers, the the number of that, the number of people, not subscribers. My bad, I apologize. That was a horrible thing to say. The number of people upon this channel has nothing to do with me. It's because people are willing to hit that button and hit buttons and do things. That is not me. That is all on you. I'm not holding anybody responsible for my upload schedule. I'm not holding anyone responsible for uh, if something doesn't do well on the channel. No, like, I blame myself. I don't blame anyone else. Uh, I'm not blaming anyone else um, for where I'm at. I blame me. Um, Even though I just said that it's like, well, the views they're of people. The they're of people. So yeah, this is, yeah, dumb. I always go back to, I'm just like, and I always say I'm gonna wrap things up. I'm gonna perfect soliloquy everything, but I say a lot of dumb shit, and I'm gonna keep on saying dumb shit. So on to the next video, whenever that is to going to be. I hoped to still probably cover Lethal Weapon. That could be justifiably around this time, right? Like, no pressure. I have no idea if I'm gonna do anything around New Year's that connects with that. Uh, if anything, also I should probably cover at least some kind of new releases, right? Anything left out there? I know there's Fallout Season 2 that came out, and I saw that the first episode dropped, but I feel like that might be an everything thing that everyone's covering, so it might just be a waste. But I like the first season. Like going into the second, like I probably like I wasn't gonna go on and want to just cover one episode right away. I was kind of tempted just gonna wait till the second episode dropped and then review it then, but I didn't check the minute count of the first episode either, so that might be a mistake. But regardless, Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm hoping to figure out a way uh, to have everyone be happy, but also try to keep myself going through content and and try to find the best way to like doing cartoons. Like I do want to cover those, but like the Crow Stairway to Heaven thing, that was a long thing that I kind of just forgot about, and so I put it on the channel because like I knew you guys wanted it, you guys voted for it, so I wanted to tell people like, hey, like your vote, your freaking it freaking counts. It may take a while for me to get to something, but your vote counts. Like also, there was a temptation about like doing like second best things that people liked. Um, but yeah, but like I'm hoping to do some cartoons soon, but I'm also hoping uh that I'll find just some more interesting content. It's time to go. Get out of here. Bye, Brody. Goodbye, everybody. Smooches. Smoochy Maguchi. I don't know. Bye.